Okay, here's a thought. What if everything you think is real isn't? What if our whole universe, down to the tiniest particle, is just .code, running on some kind of giant cosmic computer?
It sounds like pure science fiction, doesn't it?
Totally. Like the Matrix or something.
But this idea, the simulation hypothesis, it's actually got some serious discussion behind it. It suggests our reality could be a really, really advanced simulation created by, well, some incredibly advanced civilization.
And it's not just dusty philosophy books, right? I mean, it goes way back, but it feels very now.
It does. Its modern form really kicked off with philosopher Nick Bostrom's paper back in 2003. Are we living in a computer simulation? A very influential piece.
Yeah, and suddenly it's everywhere. You hear people like Elon Musk talking about it, saying the odds are billions to one against us being in base reality. It's kind of captured the public imagination.
It really has. It taps into some deep questions about reality.
So that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into this pretty wild idea. We'll look at the arguments for it, which are surprisingly persuasive sometimes.
And the arguments against it, which are also pretty compelling. It's a fascinating debate.
Absolutely. It forces you to question, well, everything. So let's start with Bostrom's core idea. It's not just a guess, is it? He frames it as a kind of logical puzzle, a trilemma.
Exactly. The trilemma is the heart of his argument. He says one of three things must be basically true.
Okay, what are they?
Right. Proposition 1. It's very likely that species like us go extinct before they reach what he calls a post-human stage, meaning before we get technologically sophisticated enough to create these super realistic simulations ourselves.
Okay, so we wipe ourselves out first. That's cheerful.
Well, it's one possibility. The second is, if civilizations do reach that post-human stage, they're extremely unlikely to actually run a large number of simulations of their ancestors or variations of their history. Maybe they lose interest. Maybe it's unethical. Who knows?
Okay. So they can, but they don't.
Or Proposition 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation right now.
There it is.
Because if you don't go extinct and you do run lots of simulations once you're advanced enough, then the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the one base reality. So statistically,
you're overwhelmingly likely to be in one of the simulated ones.
Wow.
That's
electric. It's not saying we were simulated definitively, but that one of these three outcomes seems highly probable. Yeah. It really forces you to think about our cosmic trajectory.
It really does. And you mentioned this isn't entirely new, philosophically speaking, even though the tech angle is recent.
Oh, absolutely. The core idea that our perceived reality might be an illusion or not, the full picture, it's ancient. Think about René Descartes and his evil demon thought experiment.
Right, the idea that some powerful being could be tricking us about everything we see and feel.
Exactly, or even Plato's allegory of the cave. Prisoners mistaking shadows for the real thing. It's the same fundamental question, just reframed with technology.
But that tech angle is what makes it hit differently now, isn't it? Our own progress in computing, VR, AI, it's moving so fast.
Definitely. Look at video games, from Pong to, photorealistic open worlds in a few decades. It makes the idea of simulating reality seem less impossible.
Yeah, and Rizwan Virk's simulation point idea, the moment when we might be able to build something like the Matrix, that makes it feel very close to home.
It brings it into the realm of plausibility, technologically speaking, and that's what Bostrom was leveraging. Not to say we are code, but to say, given where tech could go, what are the statistical likelihoods? It's a tool to challenge our assumptions.
Okay, so let's lean into that. Let's get into the arguments for being in a simulation. This is where it gets really mind-bending for me. The statistical argument seems key.
It is. It's elegant, really. If you accept the premise that advanced civilizations can and likely would create many ancestor simulations.
And just by sheer numbers, simulated minds would vastly outnumber original base reality minds.
Precisely. So if you woke up today, randomly, without knowing your origin, statistically, you're far more likely to be one of the many simulated beings than one of the few originals.
And that's where you get figures like David Chalmers suggesting, a 25% chance, and Musk's more extreme billions to one odds.
Those are interpretations of the statistical likelihood, yeah. They capture the force of that numerical argument.
Beyond the pure numbers, though, what about the tech trends? Does our own progress lend weight to this?
Well, proponents argue it does. The exponential growth in computing power, the increasing sophistication of VR and AI, it all points towards a future where creating simulated worlds indistinguishable from our own might be possible. Verkrug's simulation point captures that trajectory.
It feels like we're kind of reverse engineering the possibility.
In a way, if we can see a path, however distant, to us creating such simulations, it makes it plausible that others already did.
And there's quantum mechanics. Physics at the smallest scales gets really weird, right? How does that connect?
This is a fascinating, though more speculative line of argument. Some physicists look at the strangeness of quantum mechanics, things like the measurement problem.
Where observing something changes it.
Yeah, essentially. Or quantum entanglement, or the apparent pixelation of space-time at the Planck scale. Some, like Rich Terrell at NASA JPL, have wondered if these features might be artifacts, like hints of an underlying simulation.
Like the universe is only rendering details when they need to be observed, to save on processing power.
That's the analogy some people use, yes. It resonates with ideas like John Wheeler's famous phrase, it from bit, the idea that reality itself might fundamentally be information. If reality is information, then simulating it seems less conceptually strange.
It's a compelling thought.
Yeah.
No wonder someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson said he thought the odds were maybe better than 50-50 at one point. It grabs you.
It definitely does grab the imagination, but, and this is a big but, we need to pump the brakes a little and look at the other side. The skeptical arguments are pretty powerful too.
Okay, let's switch gears. Hit me with the skepticism. Where does the case against simulation start?
Well, the biggest, most immediate problem is the complete lack of empirical evidence. There's zero direct proof. Physicists like Sabine Hossenfelder are quite blunt about this, arguing it's closer to pseudoscience because it's fundamentally unfalsifiable.
Meaning we can't design an experiment to prove it wrong.
Exactly. How would you test it? People talk about finding glitches in the matrix,
Yeah.
Moments of deja vu or weird coincidences.
Yeah, I think everyone feels like they've had those moments.
Right. But scientifically speaking, those are far more likely just quirks of human memory, perception, or, plain old mistakes. There's no reproducible evidence of the laws of physics breaking down in a way that suggests a simulation glitch.
Okay, fair enough. No smoking gun. What's next?
The real heavyweight counter-argument for many physicists is the computational infeasibility. This has been looked at seriously recently by F. Vasa in 2025, looking at the actual physics of information and energy.
Okay, what did they find?
Well, think about simulating our entire visible universe. Not just vaguely, but down to the quantum level, the Planck scale, the absolute smallest meaningful level.
Right, the ultimate resolution.
The amount of information you'd need to store for just one snapshot of that universe is staggering. It's estimated to be around 3.5 times 10 to the power of 124 bits.
That sounds big.
It's bigger than big. The energy required just to store that information, let alone process it, and run the simulation forward in time according to known physics relating information and energy. It likely exceeds the total mass energy available in our entire observable universe.
Wait, so you couldn't even build the computer in our universe to run the simulation of our universe?
That's what the calculations suggest. It seems physically impossible according to the laws of physics as we understand them. Even simulating just planet Earth at that resolution is astronomically demanding.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty big roadblock.
It is. Vasa's work shows that even if the simulators only rendered things down to the level needed for, say, our most sensitive physics experiments, like detecting high-energy neutrinos.
So, not full resolution, but good enough for us not to notice.
Even then, the computational requirements are still mind-boggling. Simulating just 1 second of reality at that level could take the most theoretically efficient computer possible, like a black hole computer, millions of years. And the energy needed would be immense, generating impossible amounts of heat. Quantum computing doesn't magically solve these fundamental energy and information density limits either.
So the idea of a smooth running simulation just doesn't seem to work with known physics.
It appears incredibly problematic, yes. Which leads naturally to Occam's razor.
The simplest explanation is usually the best.
Right. Is it simpler to assume our complex, seemingly consistent physical reality is the base reality? Or is it simpler to hypothesize an entire other, even more complex simulator reality running this incredibly resource-intensive program governed by unknown physics for unknown reasons? Many scientists would say the former is far more parsimonious.
That makes sense. What else?
There's the infinite regress problem. If our universe is a simulation, then isn't it possible that the simulator's universe is also a simulation?
And their simulator's universe.
Yeah.
Turtles all the way down.
Exactly. Where does it stop? Some find that logically unsatisfying, sort of self-defeating. Paul Davies, a physicist, has pointed this out.
It does feel a bit like dodging the ultimate question.
And fundamentally, despite looking very hard with incredibly sensitive experiments, things like LIGO detecting gravitational waves, or searches for patterns in cosmic rays that might suggest an underlying grid.
Like pixels in the sky.
Sort of, yeah. Bean and colleagues looked for this, but we found no deviations. The laws of physics appear remarkably consistent and smooth across all scales we can measure. No glitches, no error messages popping up.
Didn't Neil deGrasse Tyson mention a counter-argument from a friend, too? About us not being able to simulate yet?
Ah, yes, J. Richard Gott's point. It's clever. If advanced simulations typically create more simulations, and we can't do that yet, then either we're the base reality, or we're the very last simulation in a long chain, unable to spawn new ones. The second option seems less likely if simulations usually propagate.
So our current inability to simulate kind of argues against us being simulated. Interesting twist.
This is another angle. Now, Vaza does concede a simulation might be possible if the simulators existed in a universe with totally different physics, different fundamental constants.
But then we can't test it at all.
Precisely. It becomes pure speculation, untethered from any evidence or possible verification.
Okay, so weighing all that up, where does this leave the simulation hypothesis today? Is it still seriously debated?
Oh, it's definitely still debated, very lively, in fact, in philosophy departments, among theoretical physicists, computer scientists. It's a fantastic thought experiment, but it's crucial to understand it remains speculative. It's not a mainstream scientific theory in the way, say, general relativity is, because of that lack of empirical evidence and the falsifiability problem.
So it's more on the philosophical edge of science.
I think that's a fair way to put it. Research continues. People are still looking for potential evidence, like those cosmic ray analyses by Bean et al., or doing Bayesian analyses like David Kipping.
What did Kipping's analysis find again?
His Bayesian approach basically concluded that if you start assuming an equal prior probability between physical reality and simulated reality, the odds end up roughly 50-50. However, that balance tips strongly towards physical reality if civilizations like ours don't end up creating conscious simulations themselves in the future.
So our own future actions could retroactively tell us something about our reality. Weird.
It is a strange implication of that line of reasoning.
And looking forward, if our own tech, like quantum computing or understanding consciousness better through neuroscience, keeps advancing, could that change things? Could we reach that simulation point ourselves?
That's the big question, isn't it? If we did develop the ability to create truly indistinguishable conscious simulations, well, that would lend a lot more weight to Bostrom's original argument. It would make the possibility feel much more concrete.
And the philosophical fallout. Wow. What would it mean for free will? For the nature of consciousness itself, if we knew we were essentially software?
Those are profound questions with no easy answers. It would force a complete reevaluation of what it means to be human, to be conscious. And think about the ethical dimension for the creators.
Right. Bostrom mentioned that. Would it be ethical to create beings who can suffer inside a simulation?
Exactly. Maybe advanced civilizations deliberately avoid running such simulations precisely because of those ethical concerns. That could be the resolution to the second part of Bostrom's trilemma. They can, but they choose not to.
It's almost comforting in a way, but then you get those slightly stranger ideas, like Robin Hanson saying, maybe we should try to be interesting so the simulators don't switch us off.
Haha, yes, the be entertaining strategy.
Yeah.
Or Preston Green's argument that maybe we shouldn't even try to find out if we're in a simulation because discovering it might be the very thing that gets the simulation terminated.
Yikes. Don't poke the programmers.
It adds another layer of complexity. And, it's fascinating how closely some of these ideas echo religious concepts.
So?
Well, you have simulators as creators, the potential for them to intervene, changing the laws like miracles, the possibility of an afterlife by being perhaps uploaded to another simulation or backed up somewhere. Some philosophers even suggest it offers a non-theistic explanation for the problem of evil. Maybe suffering exists because the simulators programmed it that way, for their own reasons, not because of a benevolent creator in ace reality.
To unpack.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. So wrapping this up.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway? The simulation hypothesis is just incredibly thought-provoking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sits right at that intersection of philosophy, bleeding-edge science, and pure imagination.
It absolutely does. It fundamentally challenges how we think about reality, pushing us to consider possibilities that not long ago were purely science fiction.
And whether we are living in a giant simulation or not, just exploring the idea tells us so much about ourselves, our curiosity, our drive to understand where we came from, what this all is.
Definitely. The journey is almost as important as the destination, perhaps.
We've covered a huge amount, from Plato's cave to Bostrom's trilemma, quantum weirdness, and the sheer, almost unbelievable energy costs that physics seems to demand for running a universe. So for you listening, what stands out? What resonates?
Yeah.
Do you think we're code? Have you ever felt like you spotted a glitch in your own reality? We genuinely love to hear what you think. Share your thoughts on social media. Keep the conversation going. Let's keep this deep dive rolling.